This is one of my favorite quotes. In this class, I know we're talking a lot about nutrition, and it's a very, very key aspect of alleviating world hunger. Sac vide pas capable, compé. Those of us French speakers, and this is Haitian Creole, but it means an empty sack cannot stand. Sac vide is sac vide, vide is empty. Pas, cannot, capable, compé, not capable of standing. The whole idea being that we need calories, we need nutrition, we need food in our bodies, able to stand, to enable us to function. This is absolutely critical, and this Haitian proverb, I think, sums it up well. Progress is being made, and I know in our lectures so far we've been talking about what appear to be pretty daunting problems in the world today among the hungry poor, and that it can appear to be almost impossible at times, but there is progress made. In developing countries, the overall proportion of undernourished in total population has been cut from 37% overall in the world, from 69 to 71 to 16% last year in 2010, 16%. Now that's the percentage, but that's the total population, and that really is a major achievement. 1 in 4 children under the age of 5 is underweight in the developing world, but that's down from almost 1 in 3 in 1990. So these programs that we've been talking about, they do have an impact. Obviously, conflict and violence, many of these situations can make for a serious problem for many of these communities in backsliding. But overall, the world is definitely improving when it comes to these malnutrition issues. 5 of the top 10 cost-effective solutions for development focus on malnutrition. All of us involved in development programs, working with the hungry, poor, and the most vulnerable, we have found that these are some of the most effective solutions, is any aspect of micronutrient fortification, basically just focusing on dealing with malnutrition as a foremost priority. We know that individuals lose more than 10% of lifetime earnings, and many countries lose at least 2 to 3% of their GDP due to undernutrition. So nutrition remains a very, very major priority, and we know that there can be progress that can be achieved. WFP is rapidly accelerating the number of children and pregnant lactating women who receive many of the new nutritionally enhanced food products that we've developed. WFP has increased its coverage of the critical age group of under 2, the first 1,000 days in particular that I've talked about, who receive these specialized nutrition products. And it's made a major increase that we have as an agency, over a 50-fold increase in the target population that we've been able to address. This is a very graphic slide of a brain scan of 2 different 3-year-old children. One, the normal. This is looking from the top of its head. So look at the size as well of the normal head and brain in the head on the left, and then that of the malnourished child, 3 years old again, on the right. This is all within the 1,000 days. The 1,000 days that I've been talking about, which is the key window for us in order to target these children with the one-time opportunity that we have to improve their nutritional status. Graphic proof of how a malnourished brain is smaller. And then, secondly, the evidence of the effects of malnutrition in the way the brain neurons grow within the brain. So again, on the left, the brain neurons of a normal 3-year-old. You can see all the various connections as the neurons reach out. And then on the right, that of a malnourished 3-year-old, where the neurons are obviously not growing, not developing, not connecting. This is very, very moving proof, I think, and evidence of how the effects of malnutrition can actually look. So as I was saying, we in the World Food Program are giving more and more priority to targeting children in the first 1,000 days plus of life. We know, as I've explained, that we can achieve tremendous and striking results if we target children with the proper calories and also micronutrients at this key stage of their life. What I wanted to show you was a few of the items that we use in our toolkit, in our micronutrient toolkit, vitamin toolkit, in terms of how we help children. Earlier on, I was talking about the micronutrients that in the West we have in cereals such as Raisin Bran, or in milk such as vitamin D milk. Bread would be the same. Countries like the U.S., Canada, many countries around the world have laws that are carefully regulated, and then the actual fortification is monitored by various government agencies to make sure that these commodities are fortified with the micronutrients and vitamins that the children require. And you can see the whole list of them on the side of the milk carton, and on the side of the Raisin Bran cereal pack. All these same micronutrients and vitamins we need to make sure that these children receive in these countries where we're working, but we don't often have government agencies that we work with, or even a food processing industry, private sector food industry that is either interested or capable or maybe not even existent. So, for example, the red cup that we often talk about, which is the cup we use in school feeding programs. This is an example of one from Uganda. This is one from Kenya. They look very similar. Costs us 25 cents a day to feed a child in a school feeding program, and the food will be prepared by mothers who are part of the school committee on site. They will prepare the food. It will look very similar to packs like this. This is just a sample here of corn-soya blend. The cereal base is different depending on the particular culture. Oftentimes it will be something like corn, soya mixed in, and all the micronutrients will be included there as well. The same types that would be here, they'll be included in this. This will be mixed into the cup, into the cup that the child receives at their desk, and they have to consume the whole thing. In countries such as Bangladesh, for example, these are biscuits that we're able to develop the same way. 80% of a child's nutritional requirement for the day are contained in these biscuits, and these cost us about 10 cents a piece to produce. And we do it through the local food processing industry, because that's a country like in Asia where they have that level of capacity that we may not find in some African countries. It's the same idea. The child consumes all of this at the desk and can't put a few of them in his pocket and take it home and share with the siblings, because of course that defeats the purpose. But that's the same idea. The micronutrients are all here. It's not so much what's in the calories in this particular case. This is another example of school feeding biscuits which are used. These are contributed by the European Union in this case. Donors often put their logos on there, so we know, and the beneficiary knows who's supplied them. On the back, same list of micronutrients that would be found here, for example, are there. We call these high energy biscuits, and they would be comparable to the school feeding biscuits that we use in Bangladesh. Different names, again, high energy biscuits you often hear. And we also use these in emergency relief situations. When the big tsunami hit, for example, in Asia a few years back, I was in Bangladesh then, and we were one of the few countries that was relatively less affected than Indonesia and Thailand and Myanmar and Sri Lanka. And we had a stock of these sitting in warehouses in Dhaka near the airport, and the U.S. military sent in a C-130 to pick up a number of stocks that we had available of these biscuits for use in the immediate relief program. And we do that quite often. We will borrow from school feeding programs or other programs, or simply we will have these types of biscuits that will be in warehouses pre-positioned as close as we can to different parts of the world where we anticipate there could be a need, and then we can do immediate feeding first off with these. Very, very similar approach to what we used in in Port-au-Prince when the earthquake hit in Haiti as well. Same idea. This is another example from the state of Qatar, which are date biscuits. These would be more supplemental, but in that part of the world, of course, there's a very high demand for dates, and they're very, very common. People know them well, and this is something that Qatar has contributed to us. There's another one called Plumpy Nut, which many of you have heard about, which is there's different versions of it. This is the basic version that a child simply receives this. There's no water needed. Micronutrients that he needs for the day are all here. He can simply squeeze this like a tube of toothpaste. For those children who are more extremely malnourished under medical supervision or in a health clinic in a refugee camp, for example, there's a supplemental Plumpy Nut, which is even more heavily fortified than the basic one. The same idea, water is not needed. They can simply squeeze them, eat them in their mouth. And it's interesting how around the world, all children seem to like peanut butter, anything made with peanuts. It seems to be a universal taste among children. We have another one that's been developed in India with chickpeas, very similar type of supplemental food. Same thing, it can be squeezed again, chickpeas or chichi beans, depending on what you call them. This is the gift of Canada in this particular case, where they funded this development. It's got a halal sticker on it, so that it's kosher halal for many people in parts of the world. That's very important to know. Then in other countries, this is something that's been developed in Asia in particular, are the so-called sprinkle programs, where people may have access to sufficient calories in their curries and rice, for example, in parts of Asia. And what's needed is not so much the calories per se, but the micronutrients and vitamins again. So these little vitamin packs, which people then take apart and then put them onto their food. These cost like 2 cents, 3 cents. That's all it costs. And these are super fortified with all the micronutrients and vitamins which they need. And in many countries, what we also do then is develop a social marketing campaign in that. So not only are they available through various aid programs and distributed through clinics and that, but through these types of programs, people in the population, women in particular, mothers we're really focused on, see this as being something useful and important, and they will spend their own money then down the road and buy these at local kiosks, local shops, and that in their communities. This is an example of a food. This is given to us by a group called Stop Hunger Now, which is an NGO in North Carolina. This is the type of food where they prepare and put together, I should say, all the different commodities. So the rice and the soy meal and all the micronutrients in that in a pack like that, and then send the pack out this way. And oftentimes these will go to school feeding programs for different NGOs. These were also used in the Haiti relief operation for the earthquake. The whole idea is that we keep the sugar content very low in these high energy biscuits that we use in, for example, the school feeding programs, because we want communities to see these as almost as medicine or as something particularly good for their children that they really need, and not as cookies, as we say in North American English, so that they're seen to be a treat or a luxury. That's why we keep the sugar content down, so kids don't also see them in that way. So those are a few of the innovative products that we've developed over the years, and we have found that these products really do work. Again, the key is not so much the calories per se, but what's in the calories, and then targeting the children and the young girls and the women at key stages in their life. This is, for us, the future. Here's another example of a blended food product. This one comes from Latin America, from Guatemala specifically, and it's an example of a micronutrient and vitamin fortified product that we are able to produce in countries like often in Asia as well, and like in Latin America, countries where we have a more functioning, vibrant private sector and food processing industry. in parts of Africa and then the poorest countries in the world, this would be more difficult to do. But in countries like Guatemala, we can do this. And this is food that is then distributed through the Maternal Child Health Program. I just want to show you the logo here. It's Government of Guatemala, Government of France that has helped us here. This is the French Aid Agency, and then WFP. It's all in Spanish, and it explains, here how you cook it and what you do with it. And there are different versions of this product. This is the commercial version that would be available on the market. Gives all the ideas of the vitamins involved and the calories in that. And you can see that this would be something that down the road, as these programs take on a life of their own, that we're hoping that through social marketing, social mobilization for the product, that a demand around the market in the economy will develop. Now, this particular one is stamped with the prohibition of sale, so it's forbidden to be sold. So this particular one is more of a sample. But this whole idea is that it's not just through these programs with aid helping in these hospitals and that with this type of food, for school feeding or for maternal health, but we're also hopefully in countries that are that much more developed, hopefully trying to develop a taste for this type of product where people, mothers in this case, families, will spend their own scarce resources, prioritize in their family budget for these kinds of foods that will be very much to the benefit of their children's health. Here's another example with just another logo on it. Same thing again, prohibited for sale. Just a different picture on it, but the same type of thing. And then lastly, this is an example of emergency food rations. These rations are those, for example, that would be used at the Tunisian border with the Libyan refugees coming over the border. Our staff would simply open these up. They're little blocks of biscuits, very dense biscuits with high energy, about 400 calories per biscuit. And 2 or 3 of these a day is enough for you to basically survive and manage. As long as you've got some fresh and safe water, you've got access to that water, you can survive on these. It won't be exciting food, but it will sustain you for a few days, weeks, even here and there, especially right at the beginning of a major emergency where otherwise nothing is available, and we can feed the most people quickly with these kinds of emergency food rations. They have a very long shelf life, so we can pre-position them in different countries, so we can move quickly. They don't need refrigeration. We simply rip them open and pass them out, and this can make a difference between life and death for those people suffering acute hunger right at the beginning of a major disaster.